like these are two different teams from when they met last year, and Florida pulled off the down 3-1 comeback against the Bruins. Like this is not the same Bruins team, and that's why it was so frustrating to see the Leafs lose in the exact same fashion.
You're now listening to the Boys in the Booth podcast with your hosts, Harper Cody, Chad Melbourne, and Casey Abrams.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah!
Hello and welcome to episode 208 of the Boys in the Booth podcast. This time just myself, Chad Melbourne, and joined by Casey Abrams. Today, we are going to be talking about our predictions for the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, which is well underway by now. We have our picks up on our Instagram page, but today we're essentially just going to be explaining them. And before we get into it, though, Case, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. Lots of golf going on and outdoor activities. Can't complain too much. What I'm worried about is how you're doing, because before we got started, we were talking about the draft lottery, and I said it was exactly how the season finished in the standings. And you were verifying that, and you said, "Oh, but where's Arizona?" After I just said I laughed at Utah Hockey Club. Where's Arizona? 6th. Yeah, but where's their pick? 6th. Well, I thought Utah was. Like, did you?
Okay.
Are you okay? Were you sniffing glue before you came on?
No, in my defense, Case, I am not okay. I have other things on my mind. Most notably, the first round loss, 7 and 8 years of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But also, in my defense as well, this team is being treated as an expansion team, so it's such a weird situation here. But I don't know. That was bad by me, and I see the error now, obviously. But the Arizona Coyotes, I can't believe it. They will not be in the NHL next year. Utah Hockey Club will be, which is crazy because they don't have a name. They won't have jerseys. And, who knows what the rink's going to be like. It's crazy. A lot up in the air.
I just stared at you until you figured it out for yourself.
Yeah, that took a while. You could probably see the wheel spinning in the braid. But doing well. Other than that, Case, big news will be dropping in the next week or so, in case I haven't even told you about this yet. But so all I'm going to say is stay tuned. And there's a select group of listeners who probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It might have something to do with the annual ball hockey tournament that we do every year. But big news coming in the next couple weeks. And I promise this time the news will actually be dropping. So there's that. But yeah, other than that, Case, I'm just, wallowing in self-pity right now because I believed in this Leafs team again. I let them suck me back in to believing, even though in my preview episode I said I was about a 6.5 on the belief meter. That all goes away when they erase a 3-1 lead and they go into game 7 and the narrative just lines up perfectly. Okay, Boston could become this team, the only team in North American sports history to blow a 3-1 lead in back-to-back years in the playoffs, and everything just goes by the wayside when you start thinking about that. And then, of course, they did the thing. They lost. But I bring that up because I wanted to say that next week, for all the Leafs listeners, you're going to love it. For all the non-Leafs fans listeners, you're going to hate it. But me and John Kiriakou are going to go in on this team and just totally rip them to shreds. And that'll probably be another 2-hour episode talking about our ideal offseason for the Maple Leafs. But all of that being said, Case, I've had time to recover a few days anyways, and I'm doing okay.
I made sure to try to keep you in a headspace where you can expect this was coming, and texted you after the went down 3-1 and said, wouldn't it be the most Leafy loss ever to win the next 2 and lose in 7?
And we knew it.
Yeah, after game 5, we're like, plans in motion.
Game 6, didn't expect anything else. And then game 7.
Could have put $1 million on that.
Yeah, plans complete. It just would have been so perfect if they righted the narrative. But, that's not how it shaped out. And you know what? It might be for the better because they might absolutely blow this team to smithereens, which At this point, after 8 straight years of this core, it might be the best thing to do. But enough about the Maple Leafs. They're not in the second round. Today, we're talking about second round matchups. And like I said, we're going to be explaining our predictions. So I guess the first thing I'll do is go through what our predictions actually were, and then we'll explain them series by series and try to be about 5 minutes per series or so. And we'll see. We'll go from there. But here are our picks. I picked in the East the Hurricanes over the Rangers in 7 games. You picked the Hurricanes over the Rangers in 6 games. The Panthers over the Bruins. I picked them to win in 5 games. You also picked the Panthers over the Bruins in 6 games. Going to the West now, I picked the Oilers to beat the Canucks in 6 games. You picked the Oilers to beat the Canucks in 7 games. And finally, I picked the Dallas Stars to beat the Colorado Avalanche in 7 games. And you picked the Stars to beat the Avalanche in 6 games. So it's crazy that all 3 of me, you, and Harper aligned on all of our picks, even though I don't think any of these series are a guarantee, really. Like the one that shocked me is that, we all picked Carolina over the New York Rangers, and New York looked just fantastic in their first game. So why don't we start with Florida and Boston, and we'll explain our picks there, and then we'll just run through the East, and then we'll go over to the West. So actually, you know what? Let's do it in order of how I read them. Let's go Hurricanes and Rangers. Hurricanes over the Rangers in 6 games. Case, explain your pick.
Yeah, I kind of, for the most part, had to stick with my bracket that I picked at the beginning, and I was only wrong about 2 series, so it made it easy on the second round of who to pick. But the other, it changed how many games I was predicting. And when I looked at the Carolina Hurricanes, I just thought that they looked so complete playing against the Islanders. They had a little bit of adversity that they overcame in that one comeback win, which I know you threw a bet on when they were down 3-1, and I knew they were going to come back as well. I should have put a bet down because that team just looked so good, and that's what they do. And that bit of adversity gave me a feeling like they're in the playoffs and they have the edge on this one, because the Rangers rolled right through Washington. They did not get a ton of friction at all there. The one thing that worries me about the Rangers is Shesterkin looked really good, and that's always going to be a problem. We'll see if that continues, but I'm looking at kind of, offense, I give Rangers the edge. Defense, I give Carolina. Give the goaltending to the Rangers. Special teams, I'm going to look towards probably Carolina again. So you have to pick something that gives one of these teams a bit of an edge, and to me, that's the playoff attitude and the playoff mentality and the experience, and that's in favor of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, and I was thinking along the same lines, like the experience, the coaching of the Hurricanes, like the fact that they've been knocking on the door for so long, it seems. And, let's not forget, this is a team who went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So for me, it was an easy pick to pick the team, but I don't think it's going to be an easy series for them. I mean, and that's evidenced by the fact that they lost game 1. So it's going to be a close series. I think in my mind, that's why I picked the Hurricanes over the Rangers in 7 games. But just when you look at these two teams and the regular season stats, they're all very, very close. These are 2 really great teams. And that's why it was so shocking when I was looking at some of the betting odds. Carolina in New York for game 1 was the betting favorite in that game, not by much, but by a little bit. And so but the Rangers had a better regular season, so it was confusing to me. I think both of these teams are really, really good. I think the odds should be absolutely even, and that's why I picked one team in 7 games. But I think it's going to come down to goaltending. Hopefully Freddie Anderson can be good and kind of continue his stretch of good play since coming back from his blood clot injury. I think it's going to come down to coaching, and if I'm picking any coach in the league, it's probably Rod Brindamore. Maybe, a guy like John Cooper is up there in terms of guys who I really trust to get a team over the edge, but Brendan Moore's up there. He's an incredible coach and knows how to motivate his guys. And then I think it's also going to come down to special teams, like every playoff series too. And both of these teams, like, I think you said that the slight edge might go to Carolina in special teams, but just looking at the regular season numbers, Carolina had the second best power play. The Rangers had the third best power play. Carolina had the best penalty kill. The Rangers had the third best penalty kill. So like both of these teams are special teams experts, and it's going to be damn close. I went back and forth, but I just think it's Carolina's year. They're a team who has historically in the playoffs not been able to score those big goals when it matters, but now they've got one of the best playoff goal scorers in the game in Jake Gensel. So I think that is going to put them over the edge. Yeah,
and the special teams, like the reason I gave the edge to Carolina was the PK overall, because it's just so good. Like they're the best in the league at the penalty kill, and I think it's like not even close. If just from the eye test, maybe not the stats, it might be closer, but it's just not even fair. And I can see, they lost game one. I said 6, you said 7, so they're going to lose some games. That's how it works. Of course, it's more likely to be at MSG, but I have a hard time believing that the Rangers are going to come into Riley and have an easy time winning in that barn, the way that those fans are just ravenous down there. And Carolina is just, they're just different when they're playing at home. Like that was the big comeback against the Islanders was at home, and that barn was just about to fall down. It was shaking so hard. So I don't know if this is going to be a close series. I'm starting to regret saying in 6 games, but I'm going to stick with it.
Well, and let's not forget something too. Both of these teams come into this game, you can call it rust or you can call it with rest. Like there's a fine line between the two. So I wonder if the break, because the both of these teams won their first round series in pretty short order. You picked a sweep in both, and I was too sheepish to pick a sweep, but then one happened. So it was like these teams are good, and so they've been resting for a while. So you might look at that and think, maybe Carolina came into this game one a little rusty, and maybe the Rangers were like, we're going to use this time for rest. So I think it affects everybody differently, and that's something to keep in mind too.
Well, it's always going to be in favor of the home team if you're both getting rest. Like at least you're at home and ready to go.
Yeah, you've got last change. Like you know how the boards and the bounces play better. Like you've got your home crowd behind you. There's a lot, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, boards and bounces. We're talking.
Yeah, I think it's just in the back of my mind. Maybe that's why I'm bringing that up. But okay, those are our picks for the first series. Hurricanes over Rangers. We both have that. I have in 6. Case has in 7.
Other way around.
Other way around. You're very much right. Moving on to the next series now. Panthers over the Bruins. That's what we both have, and I'm going to get it right this time. I have them in 5 games, and you have the Panthers in 6 games. So explain your pick. Panthers over the Bruins in 6 games.
Well, when I'm sitting here, I know that Boston beat up on Florida game 1. Maybe that's a bit of because Boston is still in the flow of playoff hockey and momentum. Florida got a rest. But when I look at Boston and I try to pick out all of the positive attributes I can say the same on every single one about Florida and then some. So I think they're very similar teams in the way that they play the game. They all play as a team. They play comfortably physical, which is maybe something that the Leafs were flawed at. They move as a unit. They're very organized. They play great defensively and can score as well. And, maybe you give the edge goaltending wise to Jeremy Swayman at the moment, but despite his numbers not being, very good, Bobrovsky was excellent in some of those games, making some just ridiculous saves. And that's what you need out of your goalie. So, basically everything positive I can say about the Bruins, I can match it with the Florida Panthers and add a little bit.
Yeah. And, these are 2 different teams from when they met last year, and Florida pulled off the down 3-1 comeback against the Bruins. Like this is not the same Bruins team, and that's why it was so frustrating to see the Leafs lose in the exact same fashion to this team, because they're not as deep down the middle. They're not as good defensively as they used to be. They're a middle of the pack offensive team. Their power play and penalty kill numbers are, again, like mid. And when you compare all of those to Florida, like Florida is just in another level, especially when it comes to, their regular season numbers. Now, you might say something about playoff experience and what have you about the Bruins because they've been there for longer. But if you look at the Panthers last year, they were this close to winning the cup. So, like, I think these guys are hungry again. I think they're the better team top to bottom in terms of offense, defense. Maybe goaltending's a wash because, Swayman's been so good, but it's not like Bobrovsky's a bad goalie. He literally could have won the Conn Smythe last year if they won the cup. He probably would have if they won the cup because he was that good in their playoff run. So, I don't know. I just look at these two teams. I think there's a clear favorite, and I think maybe Florida is suffering from a bit of that rust from having so much time off before they face the Bruins.
Yeah. And the Florida Panthers are agitators. And to me, when I watched that Leafs series pretty closely, the games that Toronto won, Marchand was agitated. Usually he's doing the agitating, but you could tell, was a little bit off his game. In particular, the game where he took a penalty with Holmberg. Mm-hmm. They both went to the box. He was pissed about it, got tackled by the ref. As soon as he came out of the box, there was a whistle. He went straight to the ref and started complaining about it. And it's just like, he's out of his game there. He needs to be on the other side of that. And Florida's just so good at doing that. Matthew Tkachuk is a nuisance. And then the other thing I think about with Florida is there are some really clutch players on that team. Verhaeghe is like, climbing up the leaderboards of game winners in the Stanley Cup playoffs of all time. He's a gamer. Barkov is maybe even better this year than he was last year. Like I don't remember him standing out in the playoffs as much as he did this first series already. And Tkachuk is playing on a whole different level again. So these guys are clutch. It took until Game 7 for Pasta to really make an impact on the Leafs series. Marchand was good the whole time, but other than that, I don't think that there was anyone who, you're not getting Beecher to score you big goals every game. There's just not those guys on Boston anymore.
Yeah, Pasta was really quiet. Like, not only was he not on the score sheet, he wasn't even generating a lot. And for Marchand, I'll say that he had 2 games, I think it was maybe games 3 and 4, where he just took over. Like, yeah. He looked like a player that he used to be. Like, he's 36 now. He's not the same player he used to be, but he, I think he had 3 points and like 2 goals and an assist in one of those games, and he just looked dominant, making great moves with the puck. So if he's good, and he's on, then they have a chance of getting a big goal from him. But you're right. Like, it seems like he's getting away from his game a little bit. And maybe that's because he has to step up for, a lack of depth on this team and has to do other things. I don't know. But when you look at the Panthers, they're battle tested from last year. It's essentially the same group, although I think they might even be a little better. And you know what? Like, this team has such crazy belief in themselves, and that's evidenced by Matt Tkachuk's comments after Game 7 of Leafs and Bruins, when he was like, yeah, well, we always thought it was going to be the Bruins and we've been preparing or whatever. And it's like, even though they lost Game 1, they're not down on themselves at all. They know how to win in the playoffs. They're going to beat you up. They're going to run you into the boards, and they're going to score goals too. So I think the pick Panthers over Bruins makes a lot of sense. For it to happen for me, though, for my prediction to be right, they have to win the next 4 games. For you, you've got a little more leeway because you picked them to win in 6.
We interrupt this podcast to tell you about one of our favorite partners, Sign Up Expert. If you're a sports bettor, whether a brand new one, casual, or hardcore, Listen very carefully because this ad is for you. Guys, line shopping for the best odds matters, and that's why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books to maximize their winnings. Thankfully, there has never been a better time to get signed up, and we are here to connect you with the best promotions industry-wide. When you use our link at signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth, you can get access to all the top sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and their benefits. Most importantly, all of these sportsbooks have valuable sign-up offers for new users, and when you register through our link, again, signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth, you will automatically receive the top offer at each one, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced bankroll. Guys, once again, it's simple. When you use multiple sportsbooks, you ensure that you can always access the best available odds out there, which is key to being successful and taking home those winnings, baby. So, if you want to take advantage of these incredible benefits and support our brand all at the same time, it's a win-win. Please consider signing up for your next sportsbook through our link in the description down below. signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. One more time, that's signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. Hey guys, Harp here from the pod. We all want two things as sports fans when it comes to buying tickets: to not be ripped off by scalpers and to have an easy way to do it. That's where SeatGeek comes in. This pod is sponsored by the absolute best ticket app out there, SeatGeek. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, making it quick and easy to get the best deals on tickets to your favorite sporting events. It does this awesome thing where they score each ticket out of 10 based on its value, so you know whether you're getting a good deal or not. If the tickets are green, you'd better act quick and secure those things, but if the tickets are red, maybe wait a little bit before pulling the trigger and monitor the price in the SeatGeek app. SeatGeek just makes it way too easy. Anyways, here's the best part. SeatGeek has completely hooked us up. Boys in the Booth listeners get $20 off their first purchase on SeatGeek with the promo code Boys in the Booth in all caps. Click the link in the description to download the app today. And remember to get your discounted tickets to your favorite sporting events using the code Boys in the Booth in all caps. Get great seats for a fraction of the cost with SeatGeek. Now back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Okay, going to the Western Conference now. Let's talk about the Oilers beating the Canucks. I picked them to beat the Canucks in 6 games, and you said 7 games. So, Casey, explain your pick.
I was really hemming and hawing about this one, more so because Vancouver just showed me a lot in this first series, and I was really impressed by them. I did ultimately go with Edmonton, and a lot of it had to do with the goaltending situation in Vancouver. Yeah. Shilov's was excellent, but I just, how long is that going to last? We'll see. Hopefully long. Who knows? But when McDavid and Draisaitl are clicking the way that they are in that first series, I just think that they're hard to stop. And I don't think that Vancouver's penalty kill, the way it looked, is good enough to stop Edmonton's power play. They're the top guys are really doing it in Edmonton. Same in Vancouver, but I'm going to pick the guys in Edmonton every time.
Yeah, same here. It's not even a question for me. I think it will be a competitive series, but especially when the Canucks don't have Demko, they're just not the same team. They rely on him to put out fires all the time. You can talk about how they learn to play defense a little bit better and more structured under Tocchet, but at the end of the day, they have a Vezina caliber goalie who puts out fires for them on a nightly basis. And without him, even though Shilov's played really well in that deciding game, and I guess he played two of the, or did he play 3? Because DeSmith played 1. Anyways, the last 2 games of that first round series, he was good, but point is, they're not the same team without their Vezina caliber goalie. And I just don't think that this, for a lack of a better term, like third string goaltender is going to be able to stop the two best players left in the playoffs right now. And I don't think that's a crazy statement to say. Both of those guys are insane. Maybe, you talk about McKinnon and in the next series we're going to talk about, and that's an exception, but two of the best players left right now. These guys know how to play in the playoffs. They're hungry. This team has come together throughout the season and has been through adversity. Stuart Skinner, if he plays okay, I think it's going to be fine. And
which he did in the first series.
Well, and that's the thing. The Oilers won a game 1-0 in that series, which I've heard so many people say, if you look at Edmonton and LA and someone told you the game was 1-0, who would you assume won 1-0? Probably not the Oilers, but they did. And so Skinner has proven that he can win. So just when I look at these two teams, I think the offense of Edmonton is just going to be too much for Vancouver to handle. If Demko was in this series, I do still think I would pick Edmonton, but I would bet on it going longer, maybe 7 games. But I just think Edmonton is the better team. They've learned how to play in the playoffs. They've got Zach Hyman scoring hat tricks in the playoffs. Like they're just too good.
Yeah, Shylov started 2 games. He played. Okay. He got the decision replaced on the game. He replaced DeSmith.
Right.
Yeah, it's I think without Demko, I was always going to pick Edmonton here. I ended up going with 7 games because that game that Vancouver came back in the third period was some real heroics. I mean, they were a post away from losing, but that game just showed me that the question going into the playoffs about Vancouver are they gamers? Like they haven't really been in the playoffs. Let's see how they can handle it. That answered that question for me. And I think that they're going to be able to scratch and claw in this series and at least get 2 or 3 wins. So Edmonton at 7 in the end.
Yeah. Well, it's just Edmonton is just such a different opponent than Nashville. Yeah. Like going from Nashville to Edmonton is just so different. So I wonder if I'm saying this because you go back to that round 1 series and it was just a pain for this team to get any offense going. They won a game where I believe they had 13 shots the entire game. So Nashville was just so smothering and played just such lockdown defense. And the Oilers, they're not too shabby in their defensive end anymore, as bad as they used to be. But they're like a middle of the pack defensive team, but their offense is just insane. So maybe this trading chances game will allow Vancouver's offense to come through, and then maybe you like Vancouver's defense and potentially goaltending if you get a healthy Demko back. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen, but at the end of the day, it's just a totally different opponent. Maybe the trading chances will benefit them in a game or two, but I'm with you. I can't bet against the horses in Edmonton. I think it's their year to finally prove that they're better built than they used to be, and it's more than 2 guys there. I mentioned Hyman, how good he's been. So, but those are our picks. Moving on to the last series now. And by the way, it was funny when we posted this on Instagram. We had to do both. Like who would win if the Vegas Golden Knights got through, and it was equally funny that we all picked the exact same result. We picked if the Golden Knights got through, we said the Avs were going to beat them, and if the Stars got through, the Stars are going to beat the Avs. So it's funny how that shaped out. But we've got the Stars beating the Avalanche. I picked them in 7 games. You picked them in 6 games. Case, explain your pick.
I had to stick with my guns. I had to pick the team that I have chosen to win the cup in my bracket, and Dallas is good. That's just such a complete team. They beat Vegas, the defending cup champs. They have this momentum coming out of that. I'm going to maybe get the stat a little wrong, but I'm going to be very close. Teams that lose the first 2 games at home were 15-61 all time in the series. So Dallas overcame those odds, came back and won this in 7 as predicted. And beat the defending champs. That's a ton of momentum coming into the series. Whereas the Avalanche, overcame a bit of a rival and a good team in the Jets, but I just don't think that they have that same momentum coming into it. And then on top of that, I have my doubts in Georgiev for a long playoff run. I said last series when I picked the Jets over the Avalanche, I said, McKinnon and Makar and Rantanen can only take you so far. The Stars can only take you so far. You need a team to win. And, this is maybe how far they can take them because they got it done in Winnipeg. But Dallas, it was Wyatt Johnson was their best player in the first series. They didn't have Pavelski show up. He hasn't recorded a point in 7 games. So
wow, I didn't know that.
It just shows the depth of this team. Like all guys are chipping in, and they always have been that way. So I love the completeness. I love the defense. Ottinger was fantastic, and that was a question coming into it. So it's not a thing against the Avalanche. It's a great team. Those horses are, McKinnon's a thoroughbred, and I have a hard time going against them, but I'm just so high on Dallas.
Yeah, like in the first round, I had a hard time picking Colorado over Winnipeg because Winnipeg looked really good. And I thought to myself, Colorado still has some holes and, Georgiev hasn't been good all year. And, I know that you don't necessarily need a top-notch goaltender to win the cup. And this very team, Colorado, proved that when they won with Darcy Kemper in 2022. But point is, like, they have some holes. And I was a bit nervous picking them over Winnipeg. And then that series unfolds, and oh my God, this team looked good, man. Like they steamrolled the, defensive juggernaut Jets. This team who has the best goalie. The goalie who will literally win the Vezina this year got lit up by this team. So when it comes to offense, like Colorado might be at the very top of the league among teams left in the playoffs, even including a team like Edmonton, because their offense is just so good. And it starts from the back end with Cale Makar, which is, a player that no other team in the league has anyone close to. I mean, Quinn Hughes has been pretty good, but in the playoffs, he's banged up a little bit and he's smaller and doesn't have the experience. So like the offense, how they drive it from the back end is incredible on this team. With all of that being said, though, I just look at all of the other factors and I can't honestly pick Colorado as being the better team in many of these other factors. Like in terms of special teams, I'm leaning towards Dallas because the power plays, were very similar in the regular season, but Dallas's PK was much better. In terms of defense and goaltending, I'm also leaning Dallas. And, like we said, it was a bit of a question mark coming into the playoffs, how good Jake Ottinger would be. And, because there were some struggles this year, but damn, when he's playing, he's incredible. And, his team really helps him out in front of him. So that makes him look even better too. So I do think that this series is going to be close just because the sheer willpower from, McKinnon, the Stallion and his merry men there. I think it's going to be close just because of that offense, but I had to go with Dallas. They just finished, a really tight series that is bringing everyone together, and they beat the defending cup champs. And it's just, they've been knocking at the door for too long. Similar to Carolina, they've had such a good mix of young and old players who play offensive and defensive, and a great forward group, back end goaltending, like top to bottom. They're what you would imagine a cup team looks like. Again, very similar to how Carolina is built in my mind. So although I didn't pick Dallas to win the cup this year, Case, like you did, I picked them to lose to the Maple Leafs in the cup finals. So, and I always talk about how I have to pick the Maple Leafs to win the cup or I'll be a fake fan. So Dallas has to be my number 2 pick. That's why I'm taking them over the Colorado Avalanche in 7 games.
Yeah, I just figured that this team has already looked good and beat a very tough opponent in Vegas. We all said after all of the acquisitions they made at the trade deadline and, the LTIR fudging, that team is just a completely different Vegas Golden Knights from the beginning of the season. So they weren't an 8th seed, and they beat them. And again, Pavelski had no points. Rupe Hintz had 1 goal and no assist. Stankoven had, I think, 2 assists in the series. It's like that team is getting it done as a team, and those guys haven't even fully shown up yet. So it's, to me, that's just like a winning formula in the playoffs when you have a full team like that.
Yeah, dude, Wyatt Johnston, what a player. Like,
he's a dog.
This team is loaded in the future too. Like, they've got guys, you know, like we said, they have a great mix of old and young on this team, which is going to make them dangerous for years to come. But yeah, those are our picks. Anything else we should get out, Case, before we wrap up here?
No.
The one thing, actually, now that I think about it, I wanted to say, did you see the picture of Haley Thompson posing with a Mark Stone jersey that says LTIR? I thought that was the funniest thing. And then when they got knocked out in Game 7, I saw the same picture, but the Michael Jordan crying face over the guy's face. So I thought that was just gold, and a Brockville connection
one, but I did see the LTIR jersey. That's funny.
Yeah, you know the crying face though, like the typical okay, yeah. So I thought that was good, but okay, I think that does it then for episode 208 of the podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Let us know if you agree or disagree with our picks if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you next week when I'm shredding Mitch Marner and the Maple Leafs with my buddy John. Talk to you then.
This has been another episode of Boys in the Booth with Harper Cody, Chad Melbourne, and Casey Abrams. Connect with the Boys in the Booth on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Boys in the Booth. Visit boysinthebooth.com for show details. And don't forget, you can become a patron of the podcast for just $1 a month at patreon.com/boysinthebooth.